We need entertainment, we need stimulation. And what I hear from you is that you can sit for 3 hours at a stretch doing nothing.
मैं लास्ट मूवी देखा कोविड टाइम में 21 में, उसके बाद कोई मूवी नहीं देखा हूँ. So to me my entertainment is self-awareness, discovering yourself, discovering your next 2 challenges, discovering your paths, discovering your road to happiness.
But how do I find out my strength? I'm 19, I'm 20, I'm 25. I don't know what my strengths are.
See, you will be passionate about something, and something is going to be a bore. It's fairly easy to break that down into your grid. कि मेरे को क्या चीज़ में मज़ा आता है, and it's the last. पैसा बनाने में मज़ा आता है, पैसा is a result. आपकी strength क्या है, आप उस पे काम करो.
These little things that we can do,
Conditioning them is not a one-day job or a one-time job, right? It's a way of thinking that you develop and how you want to condition them. So to me, the most important is I want to fire their intellect. I'm happy that, the education system is a great place to learn, right? But do not let go of the power of intellect. Do not get shackled by the boundaries of education. The wealth, because everyone goes through the same college. Then everyone's input is the same, so everyone's output should be the same. So you should have 40 robots coming out of a class and all of them would end result of life same. So it is that story, your story.
क्या बात.
And company was बहुत छोटी company थी, ऐसे भी नहीं कि कोई टाटा कंपनी है कि वो अंदर उसकी नौकरी लग गई तो गवर्नमेंट की जॉब है, उसकी जिंदगी बन जाएगी, right? And I did not need to interview him. Right? Okay. Seeing that endeavor,
you felt that you should give him a shot.
I gave him a shot, and I can tell you 2001 to 2008, he was one of the best performing guys we had.
Wow.
आज तक कंपनी में 4000 लोग आज काम करते हैं, कम से कम 40,000 लोग आके काम करके निकल चुके हैं. तो उसका नाम मेरे को आज तक याद है.
Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of The Spirit of Enterprise. Now, before I introduce my guest today, have you ever met someone, who has learned everything on the job, experientially? Have you ever met someone who's done a BCom degree but runs a world-class engineering company without having studied engineering? If you haven't, let me introduce you to my friend Aditya Bharti, who's the MD of Advik High-Tech Private Limited. But what's more important is that Aditya and I have the same name, and we have known each other from 11th standard. We have done some crazy stuff, bunking lectures at Wadia College, messing around in the chemistry lab with some crazy experiments, and going all around town doing some wild things. Now, first, let me throw some swag and, show off a little bit about my friend here. Aditya is one of those guys who I know, when we were like 18 or 19, 20, and we were running around, going to parties, doing time pass. He had joined his family business, right? And he has taken a business from 12 employees, which his father had set up. And he has grown that business to 4,200 plus today. In a little over 23, 24 years, with a $200 million turnover today. So let me tell you what makes Aditya special for me. While we were all 19, 20, 21, roaming around, doing time pass, having a great time. And he did that too, because we did that together. But he joined his father's business, which was a small factory in Bhosri in Pune, and took that from that stage with 12 employees to about 4,200 plus now, with 11 factories in 3 countries. And now he is working with probably 150 plus of the world's biggest motorbike makers. So he's literally number 1 in his business, that is the production of oil pumps and tensioners and motorbikes. Right? Aditya, can you tell us a little bit about what you do? Throw us some numbers. Tell us, what is Advik and where are we today? Because I hear from you that you're a global player.
Sure. So firstly, I'm not a BCom graduate. I dropped out of doing BCom.
Shouldn't have said that.
So just to get the facts record right. Yeah, like Adu mentioned, I started my career running, I was running my dad's business in Bhosri, which had about 12, 15 employees, and it did a revenue of about 1.5 crores then. And I soon enough realized that that was just a pure labor arbitrage business, and it had really no future at all. So I scaled that business up to 12 crores over the next 3 years, and then I sold that business.
Oh.
And then I started what I do now.
Okay.
So in that sense, the capital that I
You
generated,
sold your father's business.
I sold
and
it.
then you started fresh.
Because it didn't drive me. I wasn't passionate about it, and it didn't tick my curiosity bone. There was no arbitrage of intellect there. It was pure job work.
Crazy.
In that sense, right? So, and then I started set out to do what I do now, which is two-wheelers, oil pumps and tensioners, etc., etc. And so when I started the company Advik High Tech, we started with 12 employees, and the paid up or the seed capital of that was 59 lakhs, which is our paid up equity even now. And the rest is history in that sense, that how we've grown. There have been humongous challenges. There have been great opportunities. There have been, I would say, it's been a very thankful journey.
Beautiful. Can you tell us, Aditya, for all the the motorbike lovers here, can you throw us some names? What kind of clients do you work with? Tell us a little bit about the business that you're in, the business that you have grown over the years, the oil pumps and tensioners business, in which, from what you tell me, you're number one in the world. Can you throw us some?
So the world makes
about
55 million two-wheelers, and we service about 25 million pumps a year. And we do about 20 million tensioners a year as well. So our market share is easy math. That's where we are. If you leave out China, ex-China, there wouldn't be one two-wheeler maker in the world, in any corner of the world, that makes a two-wheeler and who's not my customer.
So Harley Davidson, Triumph, Duke, these are all customers of yours.
You can go on till tomorrow morning.
Yeah, can you tell us some of the customers that really
We have
excite you?
confidentialities around all of them.
Okay.
So, but like I said, there is no two-wheeler maker in the world, any motorcycle or scooter in the world, that two-wheeler who's not my customer, ex-China.
So that's what is amazing, going from a shop in Bhosri with 12 people to being able to say today that we have 50% of the market share of this particular product for two-wheeler manufacturers across the world, and not a single two-wheeler manufacturer across the world is not a client. Now that is something, and that's what I love about Aditya. Over the years, as we've had conversations, I've seen that if there's someone who I know, who has first principles thinking, Aditya, Elon Musk kind of thinking, which is not coming from a book, or which is not coming from, thinking passed on from someone else, but really questioning things and making that happen. That's you. So thank you for being on this show with us, Aditya.
On a lighter side, it comes from my non-educated background. So I question everything.
Okay, I think we should edit that, because people are going to now start questioning education. Don't edit it. But Aditya, I know that, and it's public knowledge, that you have acquired a UK-based lithium-ion battery company last year and brought in all its technology. And I read that just a couple of months back, you've also acquired a German-based brake technology company,
right,
and which brings about 60 patents to you. Now, these are big, bold steps, okay? And, being in the work that I have, I've been working with young people for the last 11 years, 12 years. Let me tell you, every young person has this aspiration that I want to buy companies, and I want to be, in that investment banking kind of a thing. And I want to, travel the world and, do these kind of things. Tell me honestly, when you were bunking lectures in BCom, did you have these aspirations that one day you're going to buy a German and a UK-based company?
To be honest, no. When I started working, my aim was to buy a Maruti 800 in down payment.
Okay.
That's where it started from, because I first bought a Maruti 800 second hand, and then I bought a new Maruti 800 on EMI. So I said, I want to buy a Maruti 800 in down payment and not worry about it.
And how old were you when you bought that Maruti 800?
The first one was given to me by my father when I started. The new one that I bought on EMI, I must have been about 18 and a half.
Wow. And that you bought with money you had earned?
Earned. on EMI through working in my dad's company when I scaled up. When I started working when I was 18.
Okay.
Right after my birthday, I went for a 15-day holiday to Mahabaleshwar. Came back, and 16th day I was on the job.
Crazy. And where did that come from? I mean, did your father say चुपचाप से काम पे या इधर उधर टाइम पास नहीं करने का? Where did ये मतलब?
I was never interested in education, to be honest.
Okay.
You know, to me, education, the preconditioning that education brings. I was one of those who wanted to question the why and the what and the how rather than learn it for a fact. Because I believe that when you learn something for a fact, you stop thinking beyond that. Right? And that becomes your kind of boundaries. And you say that this is what I know, this is what I've been taught, and this is what I do. Like a chartered accountant always says, I'm a chartered accountant, I don't understand engineering. An engineer says, I understand engineering, I don't understand finance. I say, I'm educated with nothing, so I'm ready to learn everything.
That is very, very crazy. But let me get you right. If I heard you, what you're saying is that when I get educated or I learn about something in an education way, I kind of build a boundary around myself. But boss, यार सिंपल चीज़ है कि दुनिया पढ़ती है, कॉलेज जाती है, हमारे पेरेंट्स हमको बोलते हैं चुपचाप पहले अपना डिग्री खत्म करो, सीखो, काबिल बनो, फिर ये सब उछलना, बट
और फिर नौकरी करो.
और ठीक है, नहीं, आई मीन ऑल पेरेंट्स, आई मीन बिजनेस वाले भी पेरेंट्स ऐसे ही बोलते हैं कि यार पढ़ाई लिखाई पहले करो, फिर बाद में इधर उधर उछलना. बट यार वेयर डज दिस कम फ्रॉम? आई मीन हाउ डिड दिस, what are you going to say to young people, I mean, and parents also, because you're throwing a very contrarian kind of idea at people, right? How do you kind of make sense of this?
The question is, learn the art of learning.
Okay.
Do not, जो art of learning है, art of learning every day, art of growing, art of questioning, art of logic, the intellect. What differentiates a human being from an animal is the intellect. Right, the power of the intellect. Never let go of that. And what happens is, with a lot of education, you kind of curtail the power of intellect because you get drowned with knowledge. So I'm happy that, you know, the education system is a great place to learn, right? But do not let go of the power of intellect. Do not get shackled by the boundaries of education. The wealth, because everyone goes through the same college. Then everyone's input is the same, so everyone's output should be the same. So you should have 40 robots coming out of a class and all of them with end result of life same. So it is that story, your story. What are you made for? What is your, आपकी क्या इच्छा है? Right? Which is the masala, that is the tadka in your life, and that is the tadka in your career.
Crazy. That's the tadka in your career. But you're saying that do not get shackled and limited by your own education. Basically you're saying कि जो आप सीख रहे हो या जो डिग्री आप कमा रहे हो उससे सीमित मत हो. But can you इसको थोड़ा सा can you break it down, Aditya? Can you help when you said that, you know, the art of learning? What exactly do you mean? Can you tell us maybe something from your own life, a story?
So, like, you know, there was a time when I said in 2018 कि मेरे को two-wheeler oil pump tensioner, you were there when I was having this conversation, कि two-wheeler tensioner oil pump तो मेरे को बनाने को आता है. अब EV industry आ रही है, तो अब मेरा क्या होगा?
This was about 5-6 years back when the whole
2018
was changing.
Right. And I said कि मेरे को तो और कुछ आता ही नहीं है करने. And then with good friends like Aditya, I brainstormed. Tensioner and oil pump was one product. Let's look at the why and the how कि मैं क्यों successful बना. And has that changed? Why was I successful in oil pump tensioner? Tensioner and oil pump was one product. Let's look at the why and the how कि मैं क्यों successful बना. And has that changed?
Okay.
I did not know how to make tensioners in 2000 or oil pumps.
When you started?
When I started.
You didn't know how to make that
Absolutely
product?
No.
That was not your family.
मेरे को नाम भी नहीं मालूम था ये parts के.
And that's a highly engineered product.
Highly engineered. And
you were a BCom.
I'm BCom dropout. So first year done, second year done, third year did not enroll. So I didn't even pay the fees.
Okay.
So as simple as that. So simple question was ki, you know, I did not know tensioners and oil pumps then, but I learned it. So the art of, I relied back on my core competency of being relentless, being hungry for knowledge, being hungry to explore, and ready to work hard, ready to work as in कि you have your back up against the wall again. आपने जो कुछ किया आज वो शून्य हो रहा है. जब ईवी आ जाएगी तो आप वापस से you're a startup in that sense.
I love the word that he just used, hungry. Because really, I mean, like you're saying, that's if you have that hunger, if you have that drive, really nothing is impossible. And I remember 5-6 years back when we were speaking, Aditya was at this point, of really questioning that shall I just, the business that I've already created, which was already sizable, you were thinking, should you just sit back and, enjoy what you have created, or should you, once again go back to zero and go into a new territory with EVs coming up and with these new norms, and you'll have to pretty much learn from scratch. And I can see that you've taken that path with all these acquisitions and with these new business ventures. I remember, Aditya, speaking when I was in my first year of engineering, and you were still probably attending a few lectures in BCom, and I had asked you, that you're getting into an engineering business, right? Why aren't you doing engineering? Why are you doing a BCom? And I remember clearly the answer that Aditya gave me at that time, but I'm going to ask you to share it with everyone today yourself.
100 इंजीनियर को हायर करने की क्षमता रखो, इंजीनियर खुद बनने की क्षमता एक आदमी की है. So you become the facilitator, that you can facilitate 100 engineers to get a job rather than you becoming one engineer alone.
And having said that, Aditya, I think today I'd call you an engineer much more than definitely me, but many other people with a BE and a ME and maybe even a PhD degree. Because you have learned how to talk to engineers, you have learned the art of engineering, and you're running a business that requires very high-end precision engineering. So you're an engineer, but you don't have a degree.
So, जैसे कृष्ण भगवान कहते हैं कि कर्म योगी और धर्म योगी. So by a कर्म योगी I'm an engineer. Yes.
Nice.
So question is, yes, by education I'm not, but by continuous practice आप सीख जाते हो. And whether it is engineering or whether it is law or whether it is any of these educational fields, it is actually at the end of the day common sense. Beautiful, right? And that common sense is what you should always keep your, I believe you should keep your hunger to learn, your curiosity to keep leveling up and thinking 2 steps ahead. What happens is very often we think today we will be successful. ये मेरी आज की goal है. You have to think ये मैं successful हो भी गया तो what next? मेरी next challenge क्या होगी? Keep your eye on the next challenge and the next challenge. Fight today's challenge.
Stay hungry. But you have to have your vision of your next 2 steps as well. So since you spoke about goals and vision, I remember having this conversation with you, I think maybe 10 years or so after we had passed out from college, and you told me that you have been setting 5-year goals for yourself, right? From the time you were in your early 20s, right? And you told me that you had broken down those goals from 5 years to yearly, to 6 monthly, annually, quarterly, and even weekly, right? Now, while that's very motivating and that's very inspiring, Aditya, but to be also honest and even very scary, right? Did those goals change? I mean, today when you look back, the goals that you set in your first 5 years, did they happen? Did you end up changing those goals? I mean, how do you look back at that? Because for most average people, it's a very scary thing.
So the important part is holding yourself accountable.
Okay.
So what you have set out to do for yourself, if you don't hold yourself accountable, we would, when you run a company of whatever size and scale, you try to hold others accountable for their deliverable, but you never be accountable yourself. Right? And that is where the paradox lies. You have to be first most accountable for your own actions. You are your circle of control.
If you are your circle of control. Absolutely. So hold yourself accountable.
Hold yourself first at the center of that center of control, circle of control. And then obviously goals evolve, but goals should not be changed because I didn't meet them. They can evolve. They can get larger. Or if you try a plan A and you hit a roadblock, you can plan a plan B around it and go around that to achieve the same result. But it doesn't mean that because you didn't achieve the goal, you change the goal. Goal nahi maar paye to goal post hala do. That doesn't work, right?
Yeah. So what I'm taking from this is hold yourself accountable, right? And that's what the purpose of goals really is. So Aditya, see, like I said, I mean, I work with so many young people, even young entrepreneurs. और एक चीज ये again and again जो बार बार आती है कि what should I focus on? What is the right thing for me? Today there's such an abundance of choices. When we were in college, it was doctor bano, engineer bano, या BCom से drop out हो जाओ, right? But there's so many options, and this abundance has created a kind of confusion. Parents are also telling the kids, yeah, jo bhi karna hai kar, I am with you. But that actually creates even more pressure. Now, in this context, right, how can I set goals?
So important is, you should know what is your strength. Okay. And what is your weakness. Don't try and overcome your weakness. Try and play to your strength.
But how do I find out my strength? I'm 19, I'm 20, I'm even 25, and I don't know what my strengths are.
See, you will be passionate about something, and something is going to be a bore. It's fairly easy if you break that down into your grid. कि मेरे को क्या चीज में मजा आता है, and it's the last. पैसा बनाने में मजा आता है. पैसा is a result.
Paisa is a byproduct.
Is a byproduct, right? It's not the main reason, right? You cannot. There are 1,000 ways to reach that destination. So what is it that your journey of your life is going to be best going down? Which path is something you have to wake up to every day. You have to sleep comfortably on your pillow with that, right? So आपकी strength क्या है? आप उस पे काम करो.
So what you're saying is self-awareness. खुद को समझना. This is, you're saying, an important ability for an entrepreneur or an ambitious person.
And I think, the best thing that my parents did for me in that sense was they did not guide me too much. They told me कि पढ़ाई तो कर लो, BCom तो कर लो, but उसके बाद क्या करना, क्या नहीं करना. I think that was, when I look back, that was the biggest favor they did to me. Wow. Otherwise, I would have got preconditioned by उनकी सोच, उनकी जो एक उनकी थिंकिंग लिमिटेशन से मैं सीमित हो जाता.
That is such an amazing lesson for all of us parents, to create that space or that khulapan for the children to kind of discover for themselves. And like you said, to get that self-awareness, it requires some time and some space. But we are all running towards some kind of a goal. पहले ग्रेजुएट बनो, फिर पोस्ट ग्रेजुएट बनो, फिर ये जॉब करो या ये करो, और फिर वो गेट दैट डिग्री. How can we create some time and space and some pause to get to know ourselves better? Because from what I'm hearing from you, that is such an important part of your own growth, of your own education, of your own development.
Sure. I think, the biggest wisdom to yourself comes in your quiet moments. And that is when you have to run away from FOMO. You have to run away from, all the noise around you to listen to yourself.
You're talking about quiet moments without the...
मैं तो social media में हुई नहीं. I am not on Instagram. I'm not on Facebook. So none.
Now you will. But tell us more about quiet moments. I mean, we have spoken about this me time, and I really think that today 99% of us human beings cannot sit quietly without doing anything. We need entertainment, we need stimulation. And what I hear from you is that you can sit for 3 hours at a stretch doing nothing.
मैं last movie देखा COVID time में 21 में. उसके बाद कोई movie नहीं देखा हूँ. So to me, my entertainment is self-awareness, discovering yourself, discovering your next 2 challenges, discovering your paths, discovering your life road to happiness.
Wow. And this has helped you in your journey of learning, being ambitious and growing.
Absolutely. So क्या है कि where you stand today, what are your challenges in your daily, when you're daily at work or whatever, you're acting and reacting continuously.
Right.
And at that time, there's no time to really step back and think. So people say on a flight, I watch a movie, right? On a flight, I make notes. And I have the best time कि 8 घंटे no one can bother me. कोई ना phone बजने वाली ना कुछ and ना कोई email pop up होने वाला, and you just sit down and what do you really want to do? You have time to reflect. You have time to think.
Crazy. So the art of learning, the art of having self-awareness, right? Let me ask you then another important one, because I hear from a lot of people ki what skills are going to be needed, in the future, and what skills should I focus on? What skills is a big thing. I mean, the whole government is focusing on skills, right? And I heard you say some interesting things about skills. So can you tell us, what do you think? What skills should we learn?
First, skill from competency.
Okay.
I would say skilling, you will keep getting skilled because that is knowledge based.
Okay.
Competency, and especially behavioral competency, is who you are, not technical competency.
Behavioral competency. You're talking about what we call as soft skills, like.
They are no longer soft.
Okay.
So when I said art of negotiation, it's no longer it's a behavioral skill, but it's not a soft skill anymore for successful business.
The art of negotiation.
Example.
Okay.
Art of say time planning, time management.
All right.
Or project management.
Project management. Brilliant.
Right. How detailed oriented am I?
Right.
It's a behavioral skill. It's no longer a technical skill.
It's almost an attitude.
It's an attitude. Right. So it goes into your behavioral skill more than your technical skill of मैं कितनी detail oriented हूँ, मैं किस level तक जाता हूँ. Right. And you have to understand what is your trust with yourself. That's a very important when you grow an organization. Right? When you're very small in an organization, you have a small group of 10, 15, 20 people. Everyone's a friend, everyone's a group, right? The important is that your relationship has to be so strong with yourself, and the confidence that you have with yourself has to be very high.
My God, I mean, hearing from you, who runs an engineering company and now, a global player, hardcore cutthroat businessman, talking about your relationship with self. I mean, honestly, it's blowing me away. And, like they say in HR, soft skills are actually the even harder skills. And that's what I'm hearing coming from you.
When anyone comes to me for an interview for the final round of selection, etc., which is GM and above now, my interview with him is only around his behavioral competencies. It's not around his technical. His technical competency has been evaluated by a subject matter expert, right? And he has gone through that, and I still have a 50% reject rate.
Right. Crazy.
So if people are not aligned to my company's vision, the hunger that we have for growth, the detail orientation we have, the passion that we have, if they don't have that alignment, they get rejected with me.
Crazy. Can you speak a little bit about that art of mindset we were talking? The art of skills versus the art of attitude.
Correct.
Huh?
Sure.
Aditya, you skills, and you're talking about this relationship with myself and that behavioral. Can you?
So see, you have to be comfortable knowing what you're good at. You should know what your team is good at. Each person in your team is going to be good at something, and you need to give them that responsibility. Right? Everyone is going to. You are not perfect, nor is your team going to be perfect. Tendulkar was a great run getter because he knew which ball to hit for a 6 and which ball to defend and not get out. That made him a great batsman.
Right.
हर ball को छक्का उसने भी नहीं मारा. So it's important that you differentiate in each situation where you need to be aggressive, where you need to standardize. And that is where what comes out from a calm, collected, longer term vision thinking and planning base. And then you have to be very, you cannot live on FOMO, because when you live on FOMO, you're going to live on anxiety, right? And then when you live on anxiety, you're going to be looking for the next fix.
Crazy. This is crazy.
Right? And then soon enough, you'll become, I shouldn't be saying, but like a drug addict wants his next fix. You will want your next dopamine fix. And businesses are not about dopamine fixes.
Crazy. I mean, I'm just blown away by, your talk about this very inner growth vis-a-vis skills and the outer development. What you're saying is that inner growth and that inner calm is what leads to being able to learn quickly and to adapt and to face opportunities and challenges.
Absolutely. And the most important is that, like I mentioned earlier, that वो ये कर रहा है तो मेरे को भी ये करना है. Everyone is
FOMO में मत
different.
घुसो.
FOMO में you cannot live. FOMO में you will, if you're in a rat race and even if you win the race, you're still a rat.
No, it's really important to hear that, because in the world of social media, in the world where we are comparing ourselves with, everybody around the world, FOMO is a day in and day out phenomena.
And that's what is very worrying. Then every kid or every parent wants their kid to be successful, right? But the ingredient of that success, if it is running out of FOMO,
Yeah.
look at what the outcome is going to be.
Yeah. And you said it bang on there that the FOMO is not just with youth, the FOMO is with parents.
Yeah,
I think it's worse with parents.
They have this, I believe that, like I'm a parent myself as well, and I would want my children to overcome all my shortcomings. So you run with that key, yourself best in the mirror, right?
Yeah.
So मेरे में ये खामी है, but I don't want this in my son or my daughter. So you run and chase them down with that.
Absolutely.
Right? Which they will have their own journey, they will have their own life. They will have, you've not seen life 40 years hence.
Yeah. But knowingly or unknowingly, we put our kind of expectations on them of what we think we should be. What do you think about that?
See, the important is the way I look at it, you have to give them the intellect, right? And you have to give them a good education and a platform for them to bounce on. Putting your preconditions and your vision of the world will die in 20 years or 25 years. They've got another 50 years to live.
They have to take that vision and actually they have to
perpetuate
beyond that.
See, if humans were limited by their parents' vision, we would still be roaming around in bullock carts.
True, very true. So they have to actually go beyond us and maybe prove many of the things that we believe to be true, maybe to be wrong, which might be painful for us.
At one point, we thought the world was flat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and at one point, we all thought all of us need to be engineers.
Yeah. So, it's simple. So, what got Columbus or any of the discoverers to move beyond the world is flat is just the hunger for knowledge, hunger to seek. And that's what expanded the world.
Yeah. Aditya, see, I hear many parents tell their kid कि यार तेरे को जो भी करना है ना कर, मैं हूँ. You just take a decision, we are okay. But I don't know if that helps. I think that actually adds even more pressure. So when you say that you have...
To me, I always call it, that's a very PE way of looking at things. Throw money at a problem. Problem either
PE is private equity, okay?
So the problem either hai, a problem every entrepreneur or startup starts with looking at the problem statement and finding a solution. And soon enough, PEs come around and they corrupt his mind, right? And then they give him so much money, then he starts throwing money at the problem rather than the solution at the problem.
And how is this related to what happens with parents?
So parents also ki I can't give you time, I can't give you mentoring. So मैं तेरे पीछे खड़ा हूँ, I'll give you resources. And by resources, they mean money resources.
Yeah. I remember 7-8 years back, when you were also in a period of an inflection point and life was very busy, I remember you showed me your calendar and you had evenings blocked out thrice a week with your kids for the next 3 months. And you told me that, Aditya, I have to block this time out. Otherwise, my time will just get consumed with meetings and it's not going to happen. Right? So when you say that you have to create time for them. Now, Aditya, you have 2 kids, right? A boy and a girl. And how you were telling me about an auto expo you visited and, some of the challenges that you threw at them. Sure. Can you tell us, something about, when you're saying give them intellect or when you're saying give them that curiosity, how do you do it at your level?
What I did was my son is 15. He was there at the auto expo with us for 2 days. And I told him, go around all the stalls and pick out 5 ideas that Advik should get into.
Okay. So you wanted him to go around and pick out 5 new ideas
that Advik doesn't do.
Okay.
So first
And your son is how old?
15.
All right.
So first he went around 1 hour in Advik's stall to see what we do.
Okay.
Right. Because he didn't have the full width of knowledge himself. Right. And then he went around, he wrote down something, then he scratched it out because he thought something was a good idea. Then he saw 5 more people doing it. So he said, not a good idea. It's a Me Too idea, etc., etc. And he came up with 5 ideas. So this was day 1.
Okay.
Day 2, I told him, now narrow this down to 3. And tell me the 2 you rejected. I want to know the reason why you rejected the 2. I don't want to know the reason why you selected the 3.
Tell me why you have rejected the 2.
2. So it is just firing the intellect of why and getting rid of FOMO.
Beautiful.
Right? And then the next Sunday, I told him, get it down to 1. And again, don't tell me why you've chosen the 1. Tell me why you've eliminated the other.
Amazing.
So the process of elimination, what not to do, normally brings you to the right solution.
Crazy. And you also did something else with it.
Also, what I did was I made him, there were 30 people from Advik at the stall, right? And I made him go and talk to each individual. And I told him, I want you to write one thing good you find about that person.
So you had to go and speak to every person at that big
one
stall.
of the 30 people, all 30 people.
Okay.
For 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever he thought. And he has to write me one, like I met Aditya, this is what I found him very interesting to talk to, or he was very well turned out, or he knew his stuff very well, or he presented himself well, whatever. Right, because I wanted him to find the good in people. It's very easy for us to find the bad in people, but finding the good is more important than finding the wrong.
Wow. This is really experiential learning.
This is ground reality.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. You know, when we had started Let's Enterprise, one of the thoughts was ki, how do business owners train their kids? Like, I'd heard a story about, Mr. Ambani. When Mukesh and Anil were young, they had gone for a trip to New York, and they were about 50 kilometers away from New York, driving towards the city, and he stopped the car and threw both the kids out and asked them, okay, I'll meet you, gave them a card of the hotel and said, I'll meet you there, figure it out. And his wife was crying. Right? So I've heard stories like these, and there's also a story of a very senior businessman who gave the son a business to run, and he said, don't report to me. He said, here's a consultant, here's a CA, here's a lawyer, talk to them. I will only look at your balance sheet at the end of the year. I mean, so these are some stories, and listening to you with these little things that we can do,
I think conditioning them is not a one-day job or a one-time job, right? It's a way of thinking that you develop and how you want to condition them. So to me, the most important is I want to fire their intellect.
Right.
Whether my business will be relevant in 20 years, 40 years, 50 years, God alone knows. And whether the biggest disfavor I can do to them is also make them owners of the business if they're not capable.
But let me hold you there for a moment, because you're talking about intellect, buddhi. But everybody is asking about knowledge. What knowledge should I gain? What, technology should I learn? Right? How do you distinguish these two, Aditya?
So simple. अगर आपको knowledge चाहिए, आप पहले Google पे और AI पे डाल के देखो, अगर it says I don't have an answer, please learn that. Okay. Otherwise, there is nothing that is knowledge, right?
There's nothing that is knowledge.
There is no more data arbitrage in the world. There is no more knowledge arbitrage in the world.
So you're saying that we should not be focusing on knowledge so much.
Learn the art of learning. Don't learn the script itself.
And how do I learn the art of learning as a young person?
By challenging yourself day in and day out, ki I can do better, and keep questioning the why and how and what.
Challenging and keep questioning.
Absolutely. Then everything the world is driven by logic at the end of the day, right? Which is very uncommon, but ultimately it boils down to that. And that's your first principle thinking.
First principles thinking.
That's why we started the conversation.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, nothing is beyond first principle.
Which means that if you really sit back and you think about it and you analyze it, you can find your own answers. You don't have to go looking for a ready-made answer.
There is no ready-made answer.
There is no ready-made answer.
There is nobody who's sitting in your shoe 360 degrees surrounded by what you are surrounded by and your circumstances.
No, but एक minute, Aditya. See, I have a lot of people who say, Adi, मुझे finance सीखना है because finance is important in growing a company. मुझे marketing सीखना है या मुझे, I want to learn how to negotiate. But you are a world number one player in your industry. You're buying and acquiring companies around the world. Have you taken finance classes? Have you taken marketing classes?
Any classes? I have never read a book in my life.
बस ये क्या है यार? ये ऐसे कैसे हो सकता है? कुछ तो होगा ना?
So it's simple. Actually, if you look at it, what do all these things teach you? If you really go to the olden Indian education system, राजा भी अपने बच्चे को भेज देता था सीखने के लिए to a पाठशाला. The teacher never taught with a script. Right?
Gurukuls.
In those gurukuls, was there a textbook?
No.
Right? But we had the flying vehicles, we had Vahan, etc., everything then, right? So, and it was only intellectual stimulation, intellectual training.
Intellectual stimulation and training. That is interesting.
So that was all it was, right? Today, as we got more civilized in that sense. So, we had to give education a meaning. That's my take on it. Then that's how books came, and that's how laws came. Pehle there was no law also. Right? There was no court in that sense. Raja ke yahan court hota tha, and it was it was simple. There was no written law because it was again first principle.
So you're saying go back to first principles thinking, go back to applying common sense, go back to the art of learning.
That is where innovation really happens. Because if you see what creates value, if you do the same thing that everybody else is doing, you're going to create no value. So with the same set of knowledge and data, everyone's output is going to be the same. It is only with your intellectual capability that you can innovate. You can't innovate based on knowledge.
Wow. I hadn't thought of it that way. The difference between knowledge and intellectual capability. Powerful stuff. The thing is that, see, I have done my MBA, okay, my PGDM from IIM Ahmedabad. And yeah, it's a brand, and it carries a tag, but I have my own style. I've been working with youth for the last 12 years, and I have my own little way of, coaching, and people also raise eyebrows at it. So when young people come to me and they tell me that MBA karna hai, first and foremost, I make a very scary face and I ask them कि why the hell, क्यों करना है MBA? मेरे को पहले बताओ कि करना क्यों है MBA, right? And let me tell you, like out of 10 people can't answer it, right? Now Aditya, you hire from the best of the IIMs and the IITs and colleges. I know you have hired teams of people to work on new projects. What is the importance of the MBA? What is the importance of these degrees, and what have you experienced?
See, जो मेरी इसमें सोच है ना, what our experience has been कि जो ये अच्छे यूनिवर्सिटी से आते हैं, their intellect level is a little higher because of the process of selection. Not necessarily maybe what the university does.
Right.
It's only the more intelligent, और जैसे आप IAS की पढ़ाई किए हुए बंदे की intellect is always going to be higher.
Intellect, and I would also say hunger, because you have to make that crazy effort.
So that is what we look for when we are looking at hiring from these universities, rather than कि वो उसकी tag क्या है.
So you're actually looking for the intellect plus hunger.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So, and I'm happy to also hire from a C grade university, but a gold medalist.
Okay.
For the same reason. कि वो in a small pond, he did his best and he had the hunger to do perform his best.
So let me give you a scenario, right? Because since we've spoken about degrees and education and, what really matters, if you had, let's say 3 people who were applying for a similar role, one of them comes from a very high-end university, an IIM or an IIT. One of them with very good academic background and very good academic credentials, but from an average university. One of them comes probably as a dropout, but he's worked 3, 4, 5 years and has some stories to tell about what he's done. Now, I'm not asking you to tell me who would you choose, but what I'm asking you is what would you look for, and what would make you choose one over the other?
So typically what happens is when a person is sitting with an interview with me, मैं उसकी resume देखता ही नहीं हूँ, क्या किया है, because I do not want to condition my thought process with वो कहाँ से आया है, क्या पढ़ाई किया है, क्या कहाँ नौकरी किया है, right? Is it not कि टेस्ला में डफर काम नहीं करते? तो अगर टेस्ला आपकी रेज्यूमे पे, तो आप इलॉन मस्क हो क्या?
Okay.
Right. So question is, and ऐसा है कि छोटी सी कंपनी में कोई एकदम सितारा नहीं है.
बिल्कुल.
Right. So the important is वो बंदे के आंख में कितनी ट्विंकल है, कितनी स्पार्क है, कितनी भूख है. राइट, एंड वो क्या करने तैयार है. सो आई गिव यू अ स्मॉल एपिसोड, बहुत पुरानी बात है, 2002 की बातों की, एंड आई स्टिल रिमेंबर द गाइज नेम. ओके, बारिश हो रही थी, आवर कंपनी वाज वेरी स्मॉल, हम लोग 12 15 16 20 जन के होंगे, राइट, एंड दिस गाय केम फ्रॉम अ वेरी पुअर फैमिली फ्रॉम रूरल पार्ट ऑफ इंडिया to have and that time I was the HR head and the production head and the quality head and every head in the company in that sense. तो वो इंटरव्यू में बारिश में न्यूज़पेपर सर पे डाल के, प्लास्टिक की शीट डाल के आधा घंटा बैठा रहा टू गेट माई अटेंशन कि मैं उसको इंटरव्यू के लिए बुला लूंगा बाहर. एंड कंपनी वो बहुत छोटी कंपनी थी, कोई ऐसे भी नहीं कि कोई टाटा कंपनी है कि वो अंदर उसकी नौकरी लग गई तो, या गवर्नमेंट की जॉब है उसकी जिंदगी बन जाएगी, राइट. एंड I did not need to interview him, right? Okay. Seeing that endeavor,
you felt that you should give him a shot.
I gave him a shot, and I can tell you 2001 to 2008, he was one of the best performing guys we had.
Wow.
And he started एकदम bottom of the rung, B या कुछ था, एकदम fresher, and he rose to a level of a manager, and he grew with the company, and आज तक कंपनी में 4000 लोग आज काम करते हैं, कम से कम 40,000 लोग आके काम करके निकल चुके हैं. हाँ. तो उसका नाम मेरे को आज तक याद है.
क्या बात है, क्या बात है.
Right, and I still have him on my phone. So that is what is the hunger that you look at. That is the spark you look at. कि उसको क्या, and then you throw a challenge at them. They will look at it out of the box solution. They will look at getting the job done.
So coming back to the scenario I gave you, these three people, right? One from a high-end institute, one from a average institute with good academics, and one who's got 4-5 years of, having done different things, and, he's showing some experience and some stories, right? Now, how are you going to look for this hunger or skills? How are you going to really evaluate these three people?
So it's very simple. When you ask them questions which are not related to the job,
okay,
you get all the answers.
Okay.
तो आप उसको सुबह उठ के तो करता क्या है? तेरी एवरेज डे तेरी क्या जाती है? बता.
अच्छा, आप ऐसे पूछोगे?
मैं तो ऐसे ही पूछता हूँ.
चाय पे asking about some
चाय पे चर्चा. मैं तो टेक्निकल कॉम्पिटेंसी इवैल्यूएट कर ही नहीं रहा हूँ. मैं तो सिर्फ बिहेवियरल कॉम्पिटेंसी इवैल्यूएट कर रहा हूँ.
Even for technical roles?
Even for technical roles.
Okay.
मैं CTO को भी ऐसे ही हायर किया, एडविक का.
Behavioral competency is more than technical competency.
Absolutely. My CTO is a PhD, but when I hired him, I didn't know he was a PhD. And I looked at it कि उसकी what is his hunger to learn, what is his hunger to grow. Absolutely, right? So when I'll ask him, आप क्या करते हो सुबह उठ के? तो if he says मैं ये करता हूँ, वो करता हूँ, I'll ask him थोड़ी देर बाद कि आपकी लाइफ की एम्बिशन क्या है. Then I'll come back to a question कि अच्छा फिर आप कॉलेज में थे तो कॉलेज के बाद क्या करते थे? What he was doing after college, does it align with his long-term vision of his life?
Right.
So that means he's willing to, अगर बोलता है दोस्तों के साथ मैं घूमने मूवी चला जाता था, इधर चला जाता, there's nothing wrong with it, right? But if that is his answer to me, means that is the predominantly what he did.
This is very deep stuff.
And if he did not, आपकी ambition है मैं ये करूंगा और आपका action is not in alignment with your vision.
So you're really looking at the alignment between how he thinks and believes and how he's acting. And you feel that if this alignment is there, you can train him
Absolutely.
for the job.
Absolutely. क्योंकि अगर उसको मालूम है मैंने यहाँ जाना है, राइट, और वो कहाँ की टिकट कटा के कौन सी ट्रेन पे बैठा है. अगर आपने दिल्ली जानी है और आप बैंगलोर की टिकट कटा के बैठे होगे तो कभी दिल्ली नहीं पहुंचोगे.
और ऐसे लोग आपकी कंपनी में हो चुके हैं who don't come from fancy backgrounds, fancy degrees, but are performing amazingly well and have
Absolutely.
Anyone that you can think of, I mean, without naming, is there any story that comes to your mind?
Bunch of them. I can't tell you one. Advik is made up of, हमारे यहाँ पे डिग्री को कोई परवाह नहीं करता है.
क्या बात है.
HR देखता है डिग्री जब एकदम फ्रेशर हायर कर रहा है तो एट द मशीन तो अच्छा BE है तो तू ये काम करेगा स्टार्टिंग में, DME है तो ये काम करेगा स्टार्टिंग में, बट दैट्स ओनली द गेट पास. द वे आई लुक एट इट. उसके आगे it is,
but HR देखता है.
HR as a gatekeeper की, see they have to look at hygiene.
They have to look at some hygiene.
Right?
So फिर उनको डिग्री होना पड़ेगा. That's the reality.
उनको डिग्री होना पड़ेगा
अब आदित्य ऐसा है कि काफी सारे मेरे भी स्टूडेंट्स और जो मेरे यंग फ्रेंड्स हैं, they'll be watching this, right? And many of them might even reach out to you, right? And many people might be reaching out to you and they might ask you to be a mentor, right? Nowadays, mentorship is a big thing, right? And obviously you don't have so much of time. But if you had to say yes to someone, right? What would you be looking for? What would you want to see in them? And obviously this is going to happen on a mail or a WhatsApp, right? So what is it that you would want to see in them that would make you even at least feel tempted to say yes?
See, if he wants to be a part of, उसको दुनिया बदलने की चाहत होनी चाहिए.
क्या बात है.
अगर उसको लगता है कि मैं दुनिया बदल सकता हूँ, मैं 25 और लोगों को मोटिवेट कर सकता हूँ टू बिकम एन एंटरप्रेन्योर, 50 लोगों को, 100 को या 400 को, दैट इज द गाय आई वांट.
You don't want to know how many certificates he's got and how many.
मेरे तो एक भी नहीं है. ट्रिक क्वेश्चन. दैट इज इररिलेवेंट. तो क्वेश्चन इज सिंपल कि आपने जिंदगी में करनी क्या है. राइट एंड यू आर हायरिंग द गाय फॉर हिज फ्यूचर.
या क्रेजी. आदित्य, आपने दुनिया बदलने की बात की, देश बदलने की बात की. आपके कंपनी के वेबसाइट में लिखा है यू एम टू बी वर्ल्ड क्लास. यू आर, एंड यू आर a world leader in your product, oil pumps and tensioners, and on your company's logo over there on your shirt it's written passionately innovative, which means you sold off your first family business, you built another business, then you broke barriers and now you're building another business. What kind of mindset does it need to be innovative and to keep growing from horizon to horizon in this?
I'll tell you, it's not a easy task. It's much easier said than done. It requires a lot of self-discipline first. खुद की discipline, खुद के साथ zero compromise, सबसे पहली चीज है इसमें. Right? Number one.
खुद के साथ zero compromise. That accountability to yourself that you spoke about
has to be very high.
It's not just about creativity and ideas.
Creativity and ideas will not lead to result.
Right.
Putting that into a meticulous plan and delivering that plan will lead to result. Right? So you have to have a good idea. Yes, you cannot be a me too. But you know, people say that there are no white spaces. To me, there are white spaces everywhere. You just need to look hard enough. Right? And then when you find the white space, you have to have the dedication. जैसे वो अर्जुन और वो चिड़िया और उसकी आँख.
That kind of focus.
Laser sharp focus. ये मेरे को करना है. मेरे को ना चिड़िया दिख रहा, ना कुछ दिख रहा, ना ये दाएं दिख रहा, ना बाएं दिख रहा, सिर्फ चिड़िया की आंख दिख रही है.
लेकिन आदित्य, द रियलिटी इज कि यार डिसिप्लिन हैज बिकम अ बैड वर्ड. यू नो, द मोमेंट वी यूज द वर्ड डिसिप्लिन, आवर ओन किड्स दे स्टार्ट फीलिंग, एंड इवन अस, राइट, वी फील कि यार जेल में डाल दिया है. बट यू आर ऑल्सो सेइंग, आई मीन, हाउ डू वी ब्रिज दिस? आई नो दैट देयर इज, यू आर नॉट सेइंग दैट माइंडलेस kind of a discipline, but can you help us to bridge this?
It is not discipline enforced upon us by others.
That's the crux, right?
It is discipline enforced upon myself by me.
By me.
So am I a weak person? Beautiful. Or am I a strong person?
Beautiful.
If I am a strong person, I can control my monkey, which is my brain, my head.
Wow.
Right? If I can control my monkey, I can control my circus.
If I can control my monkey, I can control my circus. And discipline is not what is imposed on me, but it is what the accountability that I create on myself.
अब discipline is not मदारी ने मेरे को डंडे मार के जो सिखाया, वो अपनी education है.
Beautiful.
वो अपनी education discipline है.
Classic.
Right? जो अपने अंदर से आती है डिसिप्लिन कि मेरे को क्या करना है. Why do I get up every morning? Right? मैं क्यों उठूं आज? मैं you know, what am I supposed to accomplish today? That purpose has to be there.
Wow.
Right?
I want to talk about this purpose more, and it's interesting that you're talking about purpose and discipline.
So this was a conversation actually I'm having with my son Advik.
Okay.
On Sunday.
All right.
About self-discipline.
Okay.
That what do you want me to regulate for you and what can you regulate on yourself?
You were asking Advik, what does he want you to regulate? So you're giving him that
I'm exploring
empowerment.
with him कि तू खुद को क्या क्या चीज में डिसिप्लिन तेरे को लगता है तेरे को
तो
करना
खुद
है,
क्या करेगा और मेरे से क्या चाहिए?
मेरे से इसमें क्या क्या चीज में तेरे को लगता है कि आई शुड डिसिप्लिन यू, बता. So क्या होएगा? I want that list to get smaller
So
and
even
smaller.
that discipline that he's asking for you is actually demanded by him. So it's his own discipline.
It is his own
He's just
discipline.
asking for your
For
support.
help. So I'm asking for support.
ठीक है.
And then वो list को मेरे को छोटा करना है.
Aditya, so world class, right? And you are number one in a category, and now you're entered top 4 in the world in brake systems, and you're ambitious there. You have traveled around the world, worked with people all across the world. I want to ask you, Aditya, that as Indians, what are we naturally strong at? And what is one thing that we as Indians need to improve or learn if we really want to be world class?
चल, तो honest answer do, you may not be able to use it.
बिल्कुल honest answer.
You may not be able to use it, हाँ.
नहीं दे.
ठीक है. So मेरे को क्या लगता है कि see आप कोई भी global company में आज जाओगे, whether it is a Bosch technical center, मैं मेरी इंडस्ट्री के बारे में बात करता हूँ, whether it's a Bosch technical center or a Ford technical center or a Toyota technical center in India, all these are manned by Indians.
All these are manned by Indians.
Indian,
Indian
5,000,
CEOs
10,000 Indians
right.
sitting in India doing the work for Ford globally. For
Okay.
Bosch doing their tech centers in India.
They have armies of Indians doing these kind of jobs for them.
So Indians by definition is becoming good at repetitive job because of our education system. But why is there no Indian Bosch or an Indian Toyota? It is the vision of our entrepreneurs. We are not long-sighted. We are very short-sighted based on P&L. इतना इस साल
The vision of our entrepreneurs.
There are few outliers in it, like the Tatas, the Birlas, the Bajajes.
Yes.
Otherwise, everyone is very short-sighted on इस साल का P&L.
Somehow profit कर लो, somehow चला लो.
इस साल कितना कमाया?
We are not thinking.
कि मैं institution खड़ा करूँगा. Right?
And you're saying that this is something that as Indians we need to grow.
एंड मेरी सबसे बड़ी यही होती है कि आप सब फाइनेंस वाले बहुत सारे लोग हैं, आप जब एक कंपनी की वैल्यूएशन करते हैं तो आप एक टर्मिनल वैल्यू लगाते हैं एंड में, मल्टीप्लाइड बाय टर्मिनल वैल्यू. आपने शायद IIM में सीखा होगा, मैं गलती से
डिस्काउंटेड कैश फ्लो में हाँ
मल्टीप्लाइड बाय टर्मिनल वैल्यू. एज एन इंडिविजुअल योर टर्मिनल वैल्यू 0, तू भी मरने वाला है, मैं भी मरने वाला हूँ, राइट? तो what is the terminal value is the goodwill and the vision we leave behind in our companies and the values.
यार बट जब हम जस्ट बिगिनर्स होते हैं या छोटे एंटरप्रेन्योर्स होते हैं, ये सब नहीं समझ में आता है.
दिस इज थोड़ी सी ये आगे की है कि आगे आपने कहाँ जाना है. व्हेन आई स्टार्टेड माय करियर कि मैं दुनिया का सबसे लार्जेस्ट बनूंगा या ये सोच नहीं थी. बट टुडे वेयर आई एम, आई हैव टू थिंक लाइक आई सेड 2 steps ahead कि मेरे
मूव इनटू दैट थिंग
एंड कि 2 step आगे मैं सक्सेसफुल हो गया तो फिर क्या. So you have to create that thought process, right? Why did Tatas become Tatas? They created an institution, right? Why did Narayan Murthy become Infosys and Narayan Murthy become so synonymous with Indian IT? They created a culture, they created an institution where 1,000 more Infosys have been born in India.
Wow. Aditya, if you had to... So, okay. Aditya, if you spoke about purpose, right? And I get it. You're saying that it comes in the second and third stage of your career. But if we have to bring... What would you want to tell young people the age of our kids, or people who are entering college and their careers in terms of purpose and vision and world class? What is it how would you like them to think of these things? Or do you think that they should just focus on what's in front of them and this comes later?
I think the first is, you don't want to be living in a fool's paradise or a dreaming paradise.
Yeah.
Right? तो आप पहले अपने 10 साल की गोल को क्लियर रखो. Right? And let the vision evolve. It's like a mirage. जैसे आप आगे चलते जाओगे, आगे की रास्ते अपने आप खुलते जाएंगे. आप फर्स्ट स्टैंडर्ड में हो और आप 10th स्टैंडर्ड की एग्जाम पेपर कैसे आंसर करोगे बैठ के सोचने शुरू कर दिया, तो वेस्ट ऑफ टाइम.
और ऐसा होता है Because we are all so ambitious and we are watching podcasts like this and thinking कि vision बनाना है मुझे अपने life
का. तो वो क्या है वो when I started or when Narayan Murthy started, did he think Infosys will become what it did?
I doubt it.
Right? So, or when Mr. Tata, founders of Tata started, did he think that Tata would become such a large conglomerate? So roads evolve, roads open up, vision gets clearer as you go along, paths evolve, economies evolve.
As you go
And
along.
new businesses evolve, right?
Yeah.
Like gig economy, Zomatos, we didn't know of them 10 years ago.
Right.
And so you would say, so these opportunities keep evolving as you go.
As you go.
So if you get stuck on your one road
Yeah.
as a non-compromisable, ये मेरी vision और मैं यही करूँगा सिर्फ.
Right.
You have to give the opportunity for it to also explore and grow.
Right. Like at Enterprise, we say #karo.
तो
Keep
पहले तो
taking
करो.
action.
And first is तो अगर आप सिर्फ सपने देखते रहोगे तो सपने ही देखोगे.
और जैसे आप करोगे तो सपने
साकार होते रहेंगे और नए रास्ते खुलते रहेंगे.
Amazing.
जब मैं in 18 when I started Advik in 2000, I did not know मैं 4-wheeler पंप में भी घुसूंगा, बैटरी में भी घुसूंगा, ब्रेक में भी घुसूंगा. Right? 18 में I was stuck with idea क्या करूँ मैं.
Right.
Today we are working on CNG with Nikki of Japan. We are working on brake system with the acquisition we did in Germany and India.
Wow.
We are working on 4-wheeler, any 4x4 drive vehicle. So any car which is a 4x4 drive, there is a transfer case.
Okay.
Uska in 5 years we've become the world's largest producer of that as well.
Wow.
So the world makes about 6 million 4x4s. We make 3 million pumps for them.
Wow. You seem to think nothing less than becoming the world's best or the world's largest.
So our idea is very clear. Agar whatever business we get into, we have a 5-filter process.
Okay.
That the 5 filters, it cannot be too competitive. We do not want to be in a Me Too economy. We do not want it to be commoditized. There has to be an intellectual cutting edge property to be added.
Right.
So these are 5 specific filters. Once we cross those filters, then before we sign out on a project, we look at line of sight to greatness.
Line of sight to greatness.
So if you can be in the top 5 in 10 years in that business,
In the world.
Then do it. Otherwise, don't.
Otherwise, just don't do it.
Don't do it. You are Me Too.
Wow.
So you have to. We don't have an action plan, because that will evolve also. We have a 3-year action plan, but we have a line of sight.
Right.
So
Line of sight to greatness. Wow.
So we call it line of sight to success, is what we call it internally. And we have a 3-year pure brick and mortar, delivery based, action based, accountable plan.
Amazing, yaar. I'm loving this. I have a few more questions and then a quick rapid fire round for you. We are at an interesting point in India. The number of startups in the last 4-5 years that we've had, there's a certain amount of, economic, political stability. India has reached a certain place, even in the global eyes, right? What would you say to young people who are entering their career now? And, traditionally it's been that, okay, you go abroad, you do your, studies abroad and then maybe work there, life is good, etc. But also I hear people saying that the next 10 years is a window of opportunity in India. Everything is growing at a crazy scale. Now, what is it that, you would want to say to young people in terms of the trade-off between being here and trying to get into that window of opportunity vis-a-vis, other options they may have?
It's simple. You should know what you want to do in life, right? If you want to really, you want to be satisfied and lead a contented mediocrity life, then please go to the US.
I like how you always come back to self-awareness.
So it's very simple to me. And agar you want to really excel, you want to capitalize on the opportunity.
If you have hunger.
If you have that hunger, then there is no better place than India today. आपको आज कौन सी चीज में ड्यू से इंडिया फुलफिल्ड, पेट भरा हुआ है. इंडिया में ये मार्केट is saturated.
Penetration levels are like below 10% almost in every category.
Every category, right? You look at data, we are the lowest cost data consumer. You look at savings, you look at stock market investments, you look at energy consumption, you look at steel consumption. Every area we are the lowest amount of penetration. So opportunity
so scope हर जगह है.
काम करना है तो स्कोप हर जगह है.
काम करने वाले के पास स्कोप, बिकॉज बहुत सारे पेरेंट्स आके, स्टूडेंट्स भी आके पूछते हैं कि स्कोप कहाँ पे है.
स्कोप, आप मेरे को ये बताओ स्कोप कहाँ नहीं है. इंडिया, आप डॉक्टर की शॉर्टेज देख लो से लेकर कुछ भी शॉर्टेज देख लो,
सब जगह
कहाँ पे आप बोलते हो कि इसकी शॉर्टेज अब नहीं है.
नहीं है. You know, I like to tell, you know, a lot of people, you know, in a joking way कि आप इंडिया में पत्थर ऊपर फेंको, जहां पे भी गिरता है ना स्कोप है.
हाँ एकदम. जो अपॉर्चुनिटी की शॉर्टेज नहीं है, आपकी क्या क्षमता है, right? And what, like we have those 5 filters because you have to discipline yourself also. You can't become कि मैंने ये भी करना वो भी करना 25 जगह, right? So you have to put your own filter. कि मेरे पास you have to know your own resource क्या है, time resource, effort resource, money resource, risk capability taking, capability, etc., and then that outcome is a simple. You will define what is your own competency.
Right. And to find this strength, this focus, this path, do you think it's okay for a young person to take 3-4 years to try different things, have a multidisciplinary approach, you know, and explore? I mean, how would you suggest going about that?
My worry is that today's younger generation, they are little, for lack of a better word, little jaldi mein hai, right?
There's a rush.
FOMO. Right? And not FOMO, there's a rush, I would say. And that first or second thing they try and they don't get success, they get bogged down by it.
Yeah. There's a feeling of
कि मेरे से नहीं
being
होगा.
pulled down, right?
Right? And that is where the parents need to support them actually.
How can the parents
emotionally
support
supporting them? And their system, like you run an enterprise, which, so why did you fail? Ask the question, not I failed. Ask the question, why did I fail?
Why did the failure occur?
The learnings from that failure, don't take it as a failure. Failure in itself.
Right.
Everything that Advik tried to do, were we successful in it? No. We tried to get into machining for defense products, for rockets and missiles.
Okay.
We failed miserably and shut it down in 2 years.
And what did you learn from that?
So we learned that is a separate kettle of fish. The customer behavior there is very different from the customer behavior we have. Right? And either we have to align the organization to run that way, but then it was a 99% of our business is here and 1% is there. Now we align to that one or we let go of that one.
That's interesting. It's interesting to me that once again you're talking about behavioral, customer behavior, and you're talking about self-awareness, a realization that वो हमारे DNA में नहीं है.
वो हमारे technical competency, we made the best products. We supplied the products to the customer. There was not one failure.
So it was not a technical thing. It was more of a mindset, behavior,
Absolutely.
DNA, alignment
Mismatch.
kind of thing.
So, and we exited that business.
Wow.
Lost a few crores and left it.
Powerful stuff.
So important is always to understand self-awareness, what you stand for again.
Crazy.
So we tried that, we failed. It's not that we've succeeded in everything we do.
Right.
We developed a product back in the day, 2003. We developed something called an auto fuel cock. That product never saw light of day. Fail ho gaya. Shuru se. We didn't get it right. So we learned what did we go wrong with.
And what was that?
So we realized that the quality of fuel in India at that time was not what. So there is a use case in India and there is an abuse case. And we did not factor the abuse case.
Interesting. So it was just something missing in your vision of the product, but technically the product was fine. But in the environmental factors, there was a mismatch.
So there is always, petrol mein milawat hoti hai, ye hoti hai.
And this is something that...
So how do you test for it?
Crazy.
Right? So we shut that line down also.
Wow.
And we said, वो उस line में नहीं जाना है, मिलावट के धंधे में नहीं जाना है. So question is, understanding and learning from your mistake is also as important.
Right.
So don't question the failure. 2 जन से गलती नहीं होती है. एक तो जो निकम्मा जो कोई काम नहीं करेगा और दूसरा भगवान. और वो दोनों में से हम नहीं है. तो गलतियां भी होंगी.
Good one.
I always say that. गलती काम करोगे, गलती होगी. गलती से सीख क्या मिली वो सीखो. गलती से मत डरो.
गलती से मत डरो, करते रहो और गलती से सीखो.
सीख क्या मिली वो सीखो. वो सेम मिस्टेक दोबारा मत करो.
Beautiful. So if you had to redesign how higher education works, let's say higher education, specifically business education, right? What are 3 elements that you would want to see in any such program?
See, very important is the way I look at it is real life case study.
Okay.
Case studies, real stories, not theoretical. Right. And real life situations. 1. Then make academia closer to industry. Why do you want to teach them only in a classroom?
Right.
Teach them bring them to a company, tell them, okay, this is a problem statement of Advik, example. Now, with Advik, 5 managers, here are 3 graduate MBAs who are pursuing MBA. अब 8 जन की टीम मिलके इसकी solution खोजो.
Right.
Why is it me and you? No, why not? Why is it not me and you together?
Right. So one you said is real life case studies. 2 is actually working on the field, spending
integrating,
time.
Because जो classroom में आप you are studying a static situation.
Yes.
Whereas the world is not static.
Correct.
What my case study, I wrote a business case 1 year ago, may not hold true today because
world has changed
and there's something else has come up.
Yeah.
Right. So it is very dynamic.
Right.
And keeping that it's like you have to move with the football ball. Right.
Wow.
So that real life जो learning आती है वो very high. And the third, very understated, is, I would say, even in higher education, building in EQ.
Beautiful. Back to the even harder skills.
Because that आप अकेला एक आदमी का काम करते हो.
आप EQ में 2-3 चीज बता सकते हैं what there should be, young people should learn.
So I think leadership is the most important. कि आप खुद एक आदमी का काम कर सकते हो.
But leadership होता क्या है? Sorry, I mean.
So leadership, how to motivate people for a common cause.
How to bring people together, how to motivate.
And for a common cause, कि ये अपने company को ये करना है. How do they see it in the same light as you see it? How do you sell them your idea, your dream? That is leadership. In the wrong sense or in the wrong example, but Adolf Hitler sold a great nation idea to a whole set of people.
Absolutely. So 3 things that you say that, if you had to redesign a business program, you would want to have is real life case studies, number 1. Number 2, bringing the studies and the industry closer together, the academics and industry closer together.
And projects.
And joining them together and doing live projects. And the third thing that you said is bringing in EQ or emotional quotient into the program.
Because like you asked me 3 things, so one is leadership. Very important, that has to develop in people, right? If you are going to run a company, 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, if they don't respect you as a leader, then what are you a leader of?
Okay, respect you as a leader.
So they have to respect your thought process.
So that involves how I think, how I behave, how I handle
situations. Say what you do what you say.
Coming back to accountability to myself.
Absolutely.
Say what you do and do what I say. My God, that's integrity. I mean, you're talking about character building, Aditya.
Absolutely. Yeah. Entrepreneurship is all about making yourself steel.
Wow.
Of steel. You have to be that strong. There will be good days. There will be bad days. There will be tough days. There will be easy days. Sometimes you will get an order. You don't know why you won it. There will be sometimes you will not know why an order you lost.
Crazy.
Right? Crazy. Those are things outside your control.
Entrepreneurship is all about making yourself steel, says Aditya Bharti, the non-engineer MD of Advik High Tech, which is a precision engineering company that aims to be globally in the top 5 in whatever business it enters. That's amazing, Aditya. Thank you so much for being so raw and talking about some of these things with a directness that rarely one comes across. But it's not the end of the Spirit of Enterprise this session yet. I have a quick rapid fire round for you, Aditya.
Sure.
Okay. And the rapid fire involves me asking you 5 questions and you have to answer every question. एक आंसर ये होगा कि जब आप 18 साल के थे, how did you think about it? ठीक है, जब हम माइडिया कॉलेज में टाइम पास कर रहे थे.
Sure.
Okay. And one answer, how you think about that now. So the Aditya, the 18-year-old Aditya and the
49-year-old Aditya.
The 49-year-old Aditya, right? So the first question is, what's your idea of fun then and now?
Hanging with friends that time was fun. Today, it's solving a problem that was very difficult to solve.
So my rapid fire question number 2, what's your idea of a perfect career? The 18-year-old Aditya and today's Aditya.
At that time, I would have thought a balanced career where I had fun, friends, success, everything.
Right.
Today, it's more about balanced careers, more about shaping futures, creating an enterprise, creating an institution. What can I give back to society as
Interesting.
and leave behind as a legacy?
So
What is my terminal value?
What's my terminal? So it's still balanced career, but the meaning of balanced career has changed for you.
It's the priorities in that have changed.
Interesting. Okay. Next rapid fire question. What's your definition of cool then and now?
Aditya was cool. He's cool then now.
Woohoo!
No, I think friends, at that point, what was cool was, I think standing up for myself was cool.
Lovely.
Right?
Lovely.
That here's a boy from Calcutta in a little awkward situation in Pune, come here feeling out of place, but still can stand up for himself. So I thought, that was strong for me itself.
Wow. Beautiful.
So, today what I think is cool is being able to change minds and lead and motivate youngsters.
Nice.
If I can motivate 20 youngsters to think and grow, that's cool to me.
Wow, that is so inspiring. How do you handle criticism then and now?
So I took it very personally that time.
You did?
I would, as an 18-year-old, 17-year-old, you take...
I did, but yeah.
So I would look at it very personally.
Right.
Today I reflect it as that's his opinion of me.
Wow. You let it be, and if there's something of value, maybe you take.
If there's a learning from that, I don't take criticism. I take feedback.
Wow. So your perspective is that you don't see it as criticism.
I don't even hear it as criticism.
Amazing.
So I take it as feedback, and then if I want to take something in it as feed forward, I take it forward. Otherwise, that's his opinion of me. Let it lie with him.
Wow.
I reflect it back.
Wow.
So I don't let it affect me at all.
Powerful. Powerful.
It's self-awareness again.
It comes back to self-awareness. I'm loving this so much. I can't tell you. Because these are our two pillars at Let's Enterprise. Entrepreneurial mindset and self-awareness.
Okay.
And it's beautiful to hear the importance of self-awareness just coming out of you naturally. So that's really beautiful for all of us. And my last rapid fire first. Success or happiness? What comes first then and now?
Success or happiness? What comes?
What would you want to come first? How would Aditya then think, and how does Aditya think now?
So to me, I can say now is easier that happiness comes from success, but success of what is important. And that's the only thing that's changed.
The success of what is what has changed.
So today it's success of shaping minds, solving a problem, looking at looking at something that others missed to see, looking at an opportunity in a different way, thinking global. So, thinking of out of the box solutions. So those are successes. They bring happiness.
Mind blowing.
What did I think of then? I think probably just a good night out with friends was happiness. But success, I don't know. Pass ho gaya to acha hai, considering, jitni main padhai kiya.
Wow. Thanks, Aditya, so much. That's Aditya Bharti, MD of Advik High Tech, my dear friend, and someone who I truly believe is taking the Indian automotive component industry to a world-class level. Really someone who's thinking from first principles and growing business and inspiring people in a very non-linear way. Thanks so much, Aditya. It was great fun, and I'm so glad that we've spoken about many of these things over the years multiple times, and I'm glad that we've had this chance to be able to do it on camera. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.